Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my favorite reads from the first quarter of 2022. I can say that these past 3 months, Jan to March, have been great in terms of reading for me, but I've selected only the top 8 books that I read in the first quarter. There are even other books which I did love apart from these 8 books, but I wanted the best of best to be in this list, so I'm just including these 8 books. I have loved each and every one of them for a different reason. There have been some reads which were totally surprising for me, and there are some others which I had high expectations for. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. I'll start with the books that I read in January and then we'll move towards March. So the first book in this list is definitely a very surprising read for me because it is a romance book. I did not expect to love this book so much, but I had really high expectations for this one because it was super famous on Bookstagram as well as BookTube. The book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Okay, I was consistently seeing this book popping up on my feed in Instagram specifically, so I just went forward and listened to the audiobook of this one. I should say that I was totally impressed by the way in which the author had written the book. I've heard that Colleen Hoover's books are specifically written for entertainment purposes alone, so it is completely romance in most of her novels, but in this one it was not like that. The author's note towards the end of this book was the best thing about the book if you ask me. Here we follow a 23-year-old girl named Lily who falls in love with this guy named Ryle and the things that happen in their lives. The center issue that the book focuses on is domestic violence, and the way in which the author has presented it in the story was just top notch. The way in which the book ends was also really good. The sequel of this book, It Starts With Us, is coming out this October. I'm super excited to read that one also. So definitely this was a super surprising read for me and I just loved reading it. The next one is yet another surprising read, and I can say that this is probably the most favorite book of mine so far this year, and it is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Okay, I just picked this book on a whim in the mid of Jan because I bought it sometime last year, but I did not expect to love this book so much. Okay, this book definitely has a special place in my heart always. Here we follow the 17-year-old girl named Frances who's in her final year of high school and she's super intelligent. Okay, the thing about Frances is that she's so much introverted and she's not a person that has so many friends. She's a part of a group, but she's not always a person who likes to be surrounded by people, and she's a fan of this podcast called Radio Silence on YouTube for the past 2 years. No one knows who the creator of the podcast is, and that is something which is very special in her life. She also makes a lot of fan art for Radio Silence on Tumblr, and one day what happens is she gets to know this boy named Aled from another school, and the friendship between Aled and Frances in this one is definitely one of the best friendships that I've read so far. That's all I can say without spoiling the book for you. Just go forward and try it. I'm sure that if you like YA books, you'll definitely love this. The main character in this one, Frances, is definitely one of the characters whom I've related to the most in my life. After finishing this one, I just decided one thing. It was to read all of the other books by Alice Oseman, and I went forward and read another series by her. I'm sure I'm going to read all of her other books also and reread Radio Silence sometime very soon in the future. Let's just wait and see. But so far, this is my most favorite read from this year. The next one is actually the series which I talked before by Alice Oseman again, and it is Heartstopper. I read the entire series first on the Webtoon app and I'm caught up with all the things that have been published so far. It's a graphic novel series of which 4 volumes are out until now. I just own the 4th volume alone. I don't own the first 3 volumes, but I'll be buying them pretty soon. Here we follow these 2 boys named Nick and Charlie who fall in love with each other in high school and the things that happen in their life. Okay, basically it's just a romance in its core, but apart from it there are many things that the author includes that surround the main plot of the story. The characters in this one are just top notch. More than anything, I can say that this can be a comfort read for many people. Okay, the time when I read this book I was in a very low mood mentally, but after reading it I just felt so much warmth in my heart because it was that good. I'd highly suggest you to go forward and try it for free in the Webtoon app first, and I'm sure that you will want to own the books for yourself. There's also a Netflix adaptation for this one coming out on April 22nd. I'm definitely sure that I'll be watching it as soon as it is released. I'm a huge fan of the series Sex Education on Netflix, and if you're a person who likes that series also, I'm definitely sure that you will love this one. This is basically just sex education without the sex in it. So far it has been going so good, and I'm just expecting a lot many good things in this series to happen. So yeah, Heartstopper is my next favorite from the first quarter. The next one is another audiobook, and it is from the genre of mythology. It is Valmiki's Women by Anand Neelakantan. I listened to this for free on the Audible Plus catalog on Audible, and I can say that I went in with really decent expectations for this book, but it just shocked me so intensely because the writing of the author was amazing. Okay, and the way in which he has written the stories in the book was also really amazing. This is a collection of 4 stories about 4 main female characters from the Ramayana and narrated from a very different point of view. I just love the way in which the author has written each and every character and the point of view from which he has written each and every story. Okay, most of the characters that he talks about here are either not well known or they are known for their negative shade, but the way in which he has shown their life to us in these stories is just super awesome. Okay, If you're having an Audible subscription in India, that is in audible.in, I'm sure there is this feature called Audible Plus. Just go forward, search for this book and listen to it. I'm sure you will definitely not regret listening to it. It's also a very short audiobook, not even 8 hours in length. I loved the whole thing and I rated it 5 stars also. I definitely want to read more books by Anand Neelakantan. I've heard that he writes really good when it comes to mythology, but I did not expect it to be this good. So yeah, Valmiki's Women is my next favorite from the first quarter. The next one is a book which I had really high expectations for, and I can confidently say that it met most of the expectations that I had. It is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. Okay, this book has been sitting on my shelf for over 1 year now, and I finally picked it up in February and read it. It was a great decision for me because I was kind of in a slumpy mood before I started reading this. It took a lot of time for me to read because I was reading the book for nearly 1 week then, and I should say that the experience of reading this book was awesome. Okay, I'm not saying that I loved the story or I loved the way in which the author has written it, but I just loved the experience of reading the book. Okay, each and every time I sat down and started reading Kafka on the Shore, I was kind of in this trance where I was experiencing the story because it was super atmospheric. Okay, I'm a person who just loves atmospheric writing and atmospheric books more than anything else, because if a book is able to transport me from this real world into its own world, which is totally imaginative, that is the best tendency that I can experience in a book, and I had a really rich experience of that in this one. Here we follow a 15-year-old boy named Kafka Tamura who runs away from his house, and this other old man named Nakata, and we follow their storylines separately, and the way in which both of these storylines meet or do not meet towards the end is the actual plot of the book. I cannot say that there is many things that you can explain about this book, but this is a book that is super great for having discussions on, because you can theorize a lot of stuff after having read this. After I filmed my review itself, I just went forward and searched as many videos as I could on BookTube and kept on watching them. It was just awesome to have so many discussions and conversations on a single book itself. Moreover, this is my first ever full-length Murakami novel. I want to read a lot more by this author for the experience itself. It was a 4-star read for me, but the experience that I had while I was reading it was like super out of the world, and I definitely want to experience it more. So this is definitely a favorite from the first quarter. The next one is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This was the book club pick which we chose to read in February, and I picked up the book, and I was so glad that I chose this because it was really awesome. Okay, the experience which I had with this book was amazing in each and every way. I knew that I was going to love this book from the reviews that I heard from other people whom I trust here on BookTube, but it was far more wonderful and great an experience than I thought it would be. It had a lot of elements, okay, and it is also good in one way because it's not just the beginning of a series, but it also feels like a standalone towards the end. Brandon Sanderson himself has said that The Final Empire is kind of a standalone, but it is part of a series because the series proceeds on in the next 2 books. Here we follow a 16-year-old orphan named Wen, who's part of a group of thieves, and what happens one day is she is exposed to be a Mistborn. Mistborn are the people who have this ability to ingest and use the power of 11 different metals, 10 or 11 different metals, and Wen is discovered to have that ability. From then on, she is taken into training by this other man named Kelsier, who's trying to bring down this kingdom that is ruled by this god king and kind of trying to liberate the people. As a whole, I can say that it was heavily political and very slow in its pacing, but as a whole, it is a complete package. There is also a romance that is going on inside the book. I have not seen anyone talking about the romance at all, but we did discuss it in our book club discussion, which was something that none of us has heard from anyone who's reviewed this on the internet. If you're a person who wants a really good romance in your fantasy books, I'm sure you will like this because there's a mellow romance that is going on in here also. It was a complete package for me, and I'm definitely going to read the further books in the series. So The Final Empire is definitely a favorite from the first quarter. Also, if I have review videos or dedicated videos for any of the books in this list, all of them will be linked down in the description. Please do check them out if you're interested. The next book is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I had a lot of high expectations when I went forward and started this book, and I can say that it exceeded all my expectations because it was that wonderful in its tone. I read only The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by the author before this one, but I should say that that is definitely one of my all-time favorite books. After reading this one, I can easily say that she is becoming one of my all-time favorite authors also. Her writing is just so smooth and very amazing. Here we follow a surfing model named Nina Riva, who's world famous, and she throws this party every year during the summer, and during this particular year when she throws the party, a lot of things go astray, and the Riva siblings, who are 4 in number, experience a lot of things that are going on in their life. There are some revelations for some of the siblings, and there are some things which happen to the siblings through which they learn to understand themselves even better. As a whole, I can say that the plot as well as the characters in the story were just amazing, and the writing of Taylor Jenkins Reid was obviously beautiful in each and every sense, if you ask me. I've heard mixed reviews for this one all over the internet, but I don't understand why people did not like this, because it is just as good as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, if you ask me. More than anything, it is a sibling story, and I'm a person who's a sucker for sibling stories as well as familial stories as a whole, so I obviously loved it. The last book in this list is Rule of Fools by Leigh Bardugo, who's my most favorite author. Okay, and I should say that I liked this book, but I did not love it completely. This duology as a whole itself, that is the King of Scars duology, which consists of the first book King of Scars and this one, was good, but it was not as good as the other Grisha books in my personal taste. There are many things which get wrapped up really well in Rule of Fools, and there are many other things which are set up for the further books in the series also. No one knows when the further books in the series will come out, and the author herself is not sure when she is going to write the other books inside the series. I can say that I liked Rule of Fools, but I did not love it as much as I loved the other Grisha books. And one thing which I really appreciate about the King of Scars duology is that it is the most high fantasy of all the books inside the series, and there are multiple plot lines that are continuously going on. It is difficult to keep track of all those plot lines while you are reading the books, but I think that they'll be satisfying towards the end in some way or the other. I really did expect a lot more from this one, but I cannot say that I was disappointed. At the same time, I was not completely satisfied. I liked the book, but I did not completely love it. So yeah, Rule of Fools is my last favorite book from the first quarter of 2022. So yes guys, those are the 8 books which are my most favorites from the first quarter of 2022. And don't forget to leave your favorites from the first quarter in the comments below, because I'd like to know what are the books that you read in the first quarter of this year. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.